He is a founder and trustee of the Ashoka University and heads the India operations of the Albright Stonebridge Group. He is the founder of 9.9 Media, and prior to that was the MD and CEO of the ABP Media Group. He holds MSc and PhD degrees in mechanical engineering and applied mechanics from the University of Pennsylvania, and a BTech in metallurgy from the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur. Please welcome on stage Dr. Pramath Sinha.
Good evening, and thank you. Ravi, Sharad, Gaurav, and Suparna for involving me in what's an incredible effort. I have to confess that I had a different reason to join this effort. Sharad and I were in class together at IIT, and we were in the same section, and he was the brightest guy in the class, and I felt really stupid the few years that I had the occasion to be in the same class with him. It's a different matter that I still feel stupid about the 4 years I spent. But then when he came to ask me for something, I was like, wow, this is my moment. I finally arrived. Sharad is asking me for something. The only thing I will offer you in return is the next time the meetings are going to move to 6 a.m. at his place. He's just started. I think Ashish has pretty much covered anything that had to be said about the initiative. I will only add 2 or 3 points that I think are going to be very important, and I think that's something that I've seen very much in the DNA of this initiative, which is why I was very excited to be part of it. I think if I look back on the history of success that we've had with ISD or YIF or Ashoka, the one thing that I think we always were very sharply focused on what is the problem we are trying to solve. I think a lot of it came out of us all being very entrepreneurial in our own lives, and having learned the hard way that doing Me Too things doesn't really get you anywhere. And I think that right from day one, the need and the gap has at least been very clearly defined. Time will tell whether the team has been indeed able to define that or not, and whether you stay true to that course. But at least as Ashish laid out very clearly, there is a real gap. And there's a real need right now. There's a growing demand from young people, potential leaders. At Ashoka, we keep saying, if the best people in our country did not work on the toughest and complex challenges in our country, who will? And today, some of our best people are maybe shirking or not being able to make that move because there isn't an intermediate step that takes them there. And so people start saying, okay, I don't want to do an MBA, public policy, well, maybe I'll go abroad. Public policy abroad is $60,000. How do you pay for it? So you get caught in this cycle of really not being able to make the move that you feel intrinsically you want to make. So I think the one powerful thing I see here is a very clear need and gap, and as Sanjeev Bikhchandani, who's not here but represented here, would say, what is the unsolved problem that we are trying to solve? And he's always pushed us for that. So I think there is a very clear unsolved problem that this initiative is solving, and I think we need to be very focused on that. I think over the years, everyone will come to us who've been associated with Ashoka and ISD and say, so what really made this successful? What program should I start? Who should I partner with? And I've always sensed that if you look back, it's really the wrong question to ask. In building great institutions, the one thing that at least I find as a common ingredient is that nobody really owns these institutions. They are started by a bunch of people, but they don't really own it. It's not that they somehow dictate what happens. And the one thing they do really well is build strong collaborators. And at the end, everybody owns it, yet nobody owns it. Everybody who's part of it thinks it's their thing, yet when you sort of look underneath the hood, it's not clear who's really in charge. And that's how great institutions have been built. over centuries. If you look at some of the great institutions that you admire, educational institutions that I have looked at, it's not very clear who owns them. There's some board of trustees, some alums who are running them. They change, a new set comes. And I think it's very remarkable that at this stage, the four founders who originally sort of came up with this idea have constantly added to themselves and been very open about sharing the idea with others. And I think that, again, bodes very well for what you're trying to do. I will say, though, that in terms of leadership, I think this institution will have to espouse a very different model of leadership, which indeed is about building institutions that nobody owns, because in a way what you are trying to do is what you are going to train the potential leaders to do. And that's very hard to do. It's very hard for people to let go at the end of the day. Even sometimes in Ashoka or ISD meetings, when I get frustrated, I just want to say, why can't we just do it this way, damn it? Why do we have to listen to everybody else? And sometimes we get bogged down and we take a long time to take decisions, and it's very frustrating for people because you have to carry everybody along, unlike a company or a startup where at the end of the day, as the person who's sort of there, you can decide. So I think it's going to be it's almost a new model of leadership that this institution has to teach, and I think we have to be very thoughtful about how do we teach that. It's hard enough to teach leadership. To teach leadership of a different kind is I think, going to be the big challenge. The last thing I will say, and I will stop because I think it's better that we have more of a discussion around this, is that the one thing that has been very exciting about at least my personal journey in building institutions has been that today in India, with all our problems as a country and challenges that we face, it is indeed possible to build something that is truly high quality from day one. And the conventional wisdom is, you start small, you do something that is kind of medium in quality. People assume that you can't do it high quality from day one. So, over a period of time, you kind of build the quality, get better students, better faculty. And to my mind, one, that's a recipe for disaster, because once you set a bar for where you start, it's very difficult to move it up, especially in the education space. But moreover, I think today we have the opportunity to start at a very high bar, to set a very high bar from day one. And that's why there's been remarkable success with both ISB and Ashoka as two institutions that in a very short period of time have made a mark. I think we have that opportunity here. We have that opportunity with, again, the very clearly defined need, the great bunch of people we have associated with it, a bunch of people who are very selfless and willing to collaborate with others. And I think if we can constantly make sure that we don't compromise on the benchmarks that we want to set, and not think that chalo thoda abhi is level pe kar lete hain, and over a period of time we'll get there, and be uncompromising about that, I think we have a great story in the making. So again, thank you for having me, giving me a chance to be part of this effort, and giving me a chance to feel smart again. I certainly want to thank you also for giving me a chance to speak today. Thank you very much.